Hey guys, welcome to the Seer Generation podcast. I am your host, Manny Nunez, and today's conversation is with AJ Rivera. He is the son of Jose Antonio Rivera. He's actually a local champion, world champion here in Massachusetts. To be honest with you guys, my knowledge of boxing in general is very limited, so it was awesome for me to be able to speak with him and get to know uh, the world of boxing a little bit more. We talk a lot about what it means for a fighter to get prepared for a fight. We talk about the promoting business in general. He does have his small company, promotion company with his father, and we talk about the ins and outs of what it really takes to promote a boxer. I mean, one of the things that I learned personally is that promoting it really is a business, a company in and of itself, where you have not only the customers, the people that are coming into the venue, but also the boxers that you're promoting. And you're not only responsible for the boxer, but getting the boxer on the other side that's going to be the opponent. You're getting the venue together, the DJ, the seats, all of that encompasses promoting a match, which I didn't know. I mean, it was a lot of fun. I learned a ton, and I hope that you guys enjoy this one too. So stick around and we'll get right to it. All right. So we're officially recording. So AJ, just want to ask you, man, before we get started here, do you mind me recording this conversation and putting it online and doing all that online stuff? Is that all right?
All right with me.
All right, awesome. So we'll start in 3, 2, 1. Hey AJ, how you doing?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Considering everything that's going on, we're doing pretty good. My family's healthy. How about yours?
Same. Can't complain.
That's good, man. So before we get into kind of looking at your life and things like that, do you mind just sharing a little bit about what you're doing now and what that looks like?
All right. So right now, my full-time job is I'm a court officer. Um, what I'm doing and trying to get to full-time, pending whole COVID situation, is I'm a boxing promoter, a boxing matchmaker. I put together shows. I put together fights locally in other states. Um, Obviously, right now, depending on what state you're in, that's a little bit hard to do. There's only specific states that are allowing fans in the arenas. So things are kind of slow right now.
Gotcha. Did you start the promotional thing a while ago? Is it just picking up? Did you start this year? And unfortunately, this whole
No, no. So I was in college. I took sports entertainment and event management. I interned for another well-known promotional company. They're out of Providence, Rhode Island. Um, After being with them, I would say roughly like 9 months or so, I started my own company in January of 2017. That's when my first show was. So actually my 4-year anniversary is coming up real soon. I think January 19th, 2017 was my first show. And then from there, I believe our first year we did 3 shows. Our second year we did 4. Third year slowed down a little bit. I think we only managed to get 1 or 2 in. I make a show for other promoters as well, like in Connecticut. I've put together shows in Florida, some fights. And then COVID hit. COVID hit.
Yeah.
So kind of ruined the rest of the year, ruined the end of the year plans. Even now it's early 2021, and I was hoping to be able to get a nice early January, February show in, but it's not looking good right now.
Yeah, I mean it's tough. We don't know where this whole thing is gonna go. I mean, hopefully with this vaccine, things will turn around sooner rather than later for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I don't know how much I trust it.
Yeah. I think a lot of people have the same sentiment. Some are looking forward to it. Some are weirded out by it. I think there's just so many unknowns, but hopefully we'll get some type of relief soon, man, for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh,
Um, mhm.
and then for me, like the difference between smaller promoters or promoters who are working their way up as opposed to the bigger ones is the bigger ones already have TV deals.
uh,
So they don't care whether there's fans in the arenas or not. They're getting the TV numbers. For me, my profit, my revenue comes from ticket sales, comes from people being in the arenas.
I see. So it's very much like contingent on, people being able to go to the local spot and check out the show.
That's right.
Oh, gotcha. To be honest, man, when it comes to like either promoting events like this or even like boxing, outside of watching a few matches on pay-per-view when it comes on, I'm fairly I don't want to say oblivious, but I don't know much about the industry. So I'm really excited to kind of talk to you and get the ins and outs of, whatever you're able to share with me today. But before we even get into that, can you talk a little bit about your childhood? Like, who was AJ growing up? Where did you grow up? What was your childhood like?
So I grew up in Worcester, Massachusetts, and my childhood was surrounded strictly by boxing. My father's a former three-time world champion. Had me at a very young age, roughly 18, 19 years old. And hold on, I'm just answering the door here. Um, so I what was that? Oh yeah, he had me at 18, 19 years old. There was a lot of days spent in the gym. There was a lot of time spent in the gym. Um, and I grew up loving it. I grew up with it. I grew up wanting to do it. I grew up around fighters, local fighters, well-known fighters. I've met guys like Mike Tyson and Roy Jones. Those guys actually just fought each other. I've been around Don King. That was who my dad's promoter was. And then I grew up fighting myself. I started fighting. My last fight was about my senior year of high school, and that's when it kind of clicked to me that a very small select few of fighters actually get those paydays that you don't work anymore after your career. Because a fighter, any athlete period, you're looking at maybe like 21 to like 31 are like your prime years, if that. Sometimes it's like 28, 29. That's in football, that's in basketball. There's certain ages where you're considered over the hump. So you got a very short time period in boxing to try to cash in. And if you don't, you're right back to working a full-time job because there's no pension, there's no health insurance, there's no benefits. It's whatever you made while you were fighting is what you got. And
That's crazy.
it is. Like, my dad had it was supposed to be like a career-ending elbow surgery. And like, if it wasn't for the fact that he had a full-time job with benefits to kind of like pay health insurance to pay for the elbow surgery, that elbow surgery would have been like an $80,000 surgery.
Wow. So your dad was boxing and working a full-time job?
Yeah, so he's the only boxer to hold a major world championship while working a full-time job.
Wow. That is so crazy. That's intense. I mean, to be honest, I don't know how much like preparation or training you would need
It's
to go through, but I would imagine it's a lot.
it's all year round. If you want to separate yourself from the rest of the pack, it's an all year thing. It's a all year round. You're dieting, you're keeping yourself because the abuse and the miles that it's almost like a car. If you put too many miles on that new car is not going to last you for a while. And it's the same thing with the boxers. If you're abusing your body and not taking care of it, your body will shut down on you because it's not normal for grown men to have to cut the amount of weight that they're cutting down to. I mean, for example, my dad's in the 175, 185 walking around, but cutting to 147.
That's like almost 40 pounds.
Yeah. And sometimes like cutting it last minute. You know, there's many fighters. You'll be so surprised how many guys are 10 pounds like heavier for the week of the fight, and within that 4 or 5 day period they cut those 10 pounds. um you know, there's all the preparation in the gym, the rounds of beating up your knuckles on the heavy bags and the mitts, and beating up your body and sparring. All that counts as preparation for the fight. It's not just the fight, you know. And if you want to separate yourself from the rest of the pack, you're doing this all year round. The fighters who are good and the fighters who are average, those are the guys who are only training when they have a fight coming up, only taking boxing serious when they have a fight coming up. But when you see the guys like Floyd Mayweather training 2-3 times a day all year round, you know, Bernard Hopkins, those elite fighters, those were the guys who stayed in the gym and kept their bodies ready. And when they met, when preparation presented itself, they were ready.
Now, when it comes to cutting and going down in weight, and why is it that fighters choose to uh, not stay at a higher class weight and go down? Is that like a power thing? So if you're like
Oh
at a
yeah, yeah. It's definitely, you want to be the big. You want to. It's a confidence thing. Two, but it's you want to be the bigger guy. That's just what it is. You want to be the bigger, faster, stronger guy. Um, roughly think about it like this. If I'm fighting at 160, there's someone out there who's walking around 180, 190, maybe even 200, cutting to 160.
oh,
I
okay.
don't walk around. I don't walk around that weight. I'm not that big. So there's no way in hell that I'm trying to fight at 160, because we have a 24-hour rehydration period. We weigh in. Let's say if the fight's on Saturday, we're weighing in on Friday. So when we're in the ring, we're not that weight. You know,
Gotcha.
you are fighting at 147. The next day in the ring, we're probably both like 155, 160.
Yeah, I mean, when I see some of the fights for like the featherweights and stuff like that, like me, just regular, just eating regular, going to the gym a few times a week, I'm at like 190, right? And I'm like, geez, man, and these guys are like my height, if not taller, and they're going down to like 140. It's
190, you're 10 pounds away from fighting guys like Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua, because the heavyweight classes are 201 and up.
gotcha.
There's no
Right.
and them guys are like 6'9", 6'8", six
Right.
six.
And I'm nowhere near that. I'm like 5'10", you know, on a good day. So
Yeah, and I'm right now. I'm walking around like, this is the heaviest I've ever been. I'm like 185 right now. I used to fight at 140.
oh wow. That's 40 pounds, man. That's a lot. Now you did mention that obviously, you know, we've talked a little bit about like all this training, all this preparation, and that if you want to really be a champion, you got to stay ready all year round. How did that play a part in your dad being around, raising you? Like, how did that work? How did you get to spend time with your dad
So luckily for
coming
me, I
up?
mean, maybe it's the fact that I'm a guy, so I love sports. You know, usually it's kind of like it's like a father bonding thing where time spent where I was satisfied was just being with him, because I think it was all I knew. It was all I knew. So like me just watching him train, I was cool with it. You know, I remember I was like, I at one point I had my own room in his gym.
Oh, okay.
When the training camps were starting to get like more serious, you know, when he was just training, I could watch and be around. But as they were starting to get real serious, my uncles called me a boxing encyclopedia, and I used to bother him during training camps. Like, Dad, why aren't you doing this? Or, Dad, you need to do this. Dad, da, 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 da. So that's what where my dad's just get on my face. Go to the room. They built a little room for me in the gym to keep me entertained.
Oh,
Um,
that's funny.
But yeah, no, the preparation is key. A lot of young fighters, when you're up and coming, sometimes that's how you become that little dot on the map. You were just ready at the right place at the right time. One of the big examples I could give is when Andy Ruiz fought Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua had an opponent that fell out due to I believe injury, and last minute, this guy Andy Ruiz, who nobody had heard of, came in and actually won. But the reason why he was able to do that was because it's not like they called this guy last minute and he had to get ready. They called him and he was already ready.
Mm,
And that's
gotcha.
the difference between those guys. And that one time that you're ready can change your life forever.
No, if when opportunity calls, right? Whether you're gonna be ready or not. So
Even if he doesn't accomplish anything else in his career, the guy can say he was a world champion, he beat a world champion, and he's a millionaire. He won a few million off that fight. And then that fight led to him fighting Anthony Joshua again. He lost in the rematch, but that was another few $1 million payday.
gotcha.
So
Now,
him being ready that one time led to setting himself up for life.
so did you when your dad, speaking of like payday, you did mention that your dad did hold a full-time job. Is that was it that the fights weren't paying, or he just wanted to have extra cash in case something happened, or?
Oh, it was all the above. So he wasn't a highly scouted amateur. Usually the guys that are highly scouted amateurs, they get the nice little signing bonus. They get the promoter that help builds them up. My dad always had a pro style, so the amateurs weren't really his game. And so he the first like the first quarter of his career, so the first like 25-30% of his career was without even a promoter.
Okay.
So he was climbing up the ranks just solo dolo. And then finally he ended up getting with Don King, where now he's getting the better paydays, he's getting the title shots. But he always knew that one, boxing is short lived. He had me. There was incentive. He has a state job as well. So there was benefits, there was incentives there. And if he doesn't cash in, then you know, then what?
Right.
So he always kept the job. And then on top of that, as you start to, when you're fighting 4-round fights, 6-round fights, 8-round fights, you can fight a lot. But when you get to the 12-round level, you're fighting at most 4 times a year, at most. So that's only 4 times in the year that you're going to get paid if you fought 4 times a year. My dad was fighting like 2 times a year.
When do you get up to like a 12 round type of fight? And again, I am ignorant in a lot of these. My knowledge of boxing is like Rocky and stuff like that. So I'm like, and you do see that they go like the 12 rounds and all that. So when do you start going like, how does that even work? Like when do you do
World,
4 and 6?
world championship fights are 12 rounds. So you start off at 4, you win your fights, your 4-round fights, then you go into your 6-round fights, then you go into your 8-round fights. When you're at the 8 and 10-round level, now you're fighting other contenders like yourself. You're fighting journeymen who have been at the top level. So maybe like some guys who were once at a championship level, but they might be older and on their way down. Those are the guys that the young guys take advantage of and get during the 8 and 10-round level. And then once you pass your 8 and 10-round level test, that's when you get to your 12-round level.
So you build up to be able to fight 12 rounds.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming those are bigger paydays if you end up
Yes.
getting those fights.
Yes.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. How long does it take somebody to build up to get to that point?
There's no absolute answer on that. It's gonna be based off many things. It's gonna be based off, number one, the fighter. How much do you believe in yourself? There's a lot of guys in this new generation who like to be babied. So it takes them a while. They're getting 20, 30, 40 fights before they even finally go up to that next level. But then you have guys that believe in themselves so early, like, for example, Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson, I think he's right now like 14-0, and he's already fighting at a 12-round level. Vasil Lomachenko in his like second pro fight, he fought for a world championship. But those were guys who were also highly scouted amateurs. Those were guys who were fighting at the Olympic level.
So you did mention like your dad didn't work with a promoter for a while. How important is like having a promoter? Like what's the relationship there? Like
Oh,
can
it's
somebody like
so in any sport, profit and revenue is number one. That's golden for the owners, for the commissioners, for any sport. In boxing, it's got its political advantages being with a promoter. When you have a promoter who has a good relationship with other good promoters or other sanctioning bodies or even TV networks, because your fan base ultimately is what's going to lead to your paydays. You know, a big example I can give is a guy who just fought this past weekend, Ryan Garcia. Huge fan base, huge following. The kid is already getting paid more than some world champions are getting paid, and he's not a world champion yet.
is that like do boxers do like any type of like social media stuff?
So
Like
the
when
smart
this stuff up and coming or
that the smart ones do. Luckily, in this day and age, our guys kind of know how to maneuver with social media. Back then, like for example, if Roy Jones Jr. ever fought in today's era with social media, he would be the biggest thing around because I use Floyd as an example. What got Floyd Mayweather so big, so paid was not just the social media presence, but he was on WWE. He was on Dancing with the Stars. He made himself bigger than boxing. He made himself where you knew the guy from, if you didn't know him from boxing, you were like, hey, that guy was on Dancing with the Stars. Or, hey, that guy fought the Big Show on WWE. You know, or, hey, that guy was in a music video or he was on TMZ doing something stupid like burning money in a strip club. You know, he made himself out there where you knew who he was, regardless if it was from boxing. A lot of the older guys, they didn't have that. The newer generation has that. So Ryan knows how to use his presence to the T. You know, he's got TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff. He does it well, and can't knock him for it because it's going to get him paid. It's going to get him big money without even having to take the riskier fights. There's some guys who, because they don't have that following, the only time they're going to get paid is if they take a big risky fight. And then you got guys who, it doesn't matter who they fight, they're going to get paid regardless because their following is that big. You know, when Floyd Mayweather can fight some 122-pound Japanese kickboxer for $9 million in 3 rounds, you know, that's because he built that following that no matter who he fights, people are going to watch. Gotcha. Just like the McGregor show, the McGregor fight. That was a circus act. That wasn't real boxing. But he got over $100 million for that.
Yeah, I watched that fight. That was pretty entertaining. To
say the least. You're saying that you didn't really know boxing. You've seen a couple pay-per-views, but you watched that fight.
Yeah.
Because that's Floyd Mayweather's created that persona where it didn't matter if you liked boxing or not. You wanted to watch him.
Right.
A lot of young guys, if they can figure out that blueprint, like Ryan Garcia has, that's what's going to lead to the good paydays because this generation is they give more respect to popularity rather than talent.
Gotcha.
Not even just in sports, that's in music too. You know, you'll have people who will say Tekashi 69 is a better rapper than Jay-Z. And we all know that's not true, but it's a popularity thing. It's the popularity thing. It's the numbers. It's the social media presence. So that's just kind of, some guys master it and some guys don't. Unfortunately, the people who are soft-spoken and the people who are humble and quiet and do their talking in the ring, they never really get the pay that they're due.
How do you feel about that? Because you know, I mean, I guess, you know, you give a great example there. It's almost like it's not just the talent anymore. It's not just like the hard work when it comes to preparing yourself. It's like there's this other kind of like almost like vanity aspect of it with the social media, with the getting the attention that has very little to do with boxing almost.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, not to knock, Adrian Broner is a very good fighter, but an example I can give you is he gets paid more money to lose fight than some guys get paid to win. But it's because he's so well known, whether he's got people's attention from doing positive things or negative things, he's so well known that that's that's his paydays, you know? So it's it sucks for the people who actually like are legit fighters, because there's people out there who are not legit fighters. They talk like they are, they make it look like they are, and they get paid more than the people who are putting blood, sweat, and tears into this sport. Look at
Gotcha.
the Paul brothers, Logan Paul and Jake Paul. Logan's about to fight Floyd. Jake just fought Nate Robinson, and they got more money in one fight than some fighters made in their whole careers.
Right. So I guess that almost kind of boils down to why you're boxing in the first place. Is it like a money thing, or is it like to test yourself and your abilities as well?
I think it's both. I think for some people it's their outlet. Boxing for a lot of people starts off as a way to survive. It starts off as a way, whether you're a kid trying to stay out of trouble, whether you were a kid that might have been bullied and wanted to learn to defend yourself. Um, it starts off as a sport you love, but in order to really stick with it and stay with it, man, it eventually becomes about the money, because it's like, wow, I can really fend for my family fighting, doing
Right.
what I'm good at, you know? I fight one time a year and I set my family up. For some guys, not always, but some guys, you know, they fight one time a year and they're setting their families up for life. Um, so you still have those guys who are out there chasing legacy, who want their names in the record books, and then you got your guys who are like, yeah, I could care less. I just want the paper.
Now,
You know?
speaking of legacy, um, Mike Tyson, I didn't get to see the fight, but I did see him go on the Joe Rogan podcast in the show, and I heard him talking about, getting ready for this match and potentially having some type of like old school like company, like legacy, where you get like all these guys that were huge like 10 years ago, and you kind of see how they're doing now, and almost like these guys never lost that. I mean, they became too old for the current sport, but they still have that like fire to want to fight again.
Oh, once a boxer, always a boxer. I'm talking about when you've done it seriously, and
Hmm.
whether you only fought at an amateur level or whether it doesn't die. I mean, I see old heads that they never even turned pro. They fought amateur, and like they'll be shadow boxing when they're walking and stuff. Even me, like I still get an itch to be like, I gotta fight at least once. I gotta turn pro at least one time. That fire doesn't that fire just doesn't die. It's almost like I don't know. I just saw it recently, and I just couldn't believe how in phenomenal shape he looked. I saw a Terrell Owens interview, football. I mean,
Okay, yeah.
the guy for his age too, he looked like he was in phenomenal shape, and I could tell like if he would definitely play in the NFL again. Like he probably stays in shape with it in his mind that another team will pick him up. He probably has hope
Yeah.
somewhere deep down that somebody's gonna give him the chance.
To be able to get in again. Yeah, I
Look
mean,
at Tom Brady. What does Tom Brady have to prove? Tom Brady has nothing to prove at all. The guy's 43 years old and still trying to play with these young 20-something-year-old kids that are trying to kill him every play.
yeah, I'd be curious to know what his, well, I guess is always like, almost, you almost got to prove yourself at that point, right? It's like, people are telling him that he's too old, but he's like, nah, I still got it. I'm gonna prove you wrong year after year.
Yeah. I think when it comes to sports, it's many different things. It's one, you always want to try to cement yourself in the Hall of Fame or the record books, whatever it is. I think it's always when you have dedicated yourself to play at an elite level. You had to have dedicated yourself at some point in time to this for years.
Right.
For years, it had to have been eat, breathe, sleep that specific sport for years. So when it's no longer there, I feel like people lose a part of themselves. They don't know what to do with themselves anymore. You know, I remember in an interview. It wasn't even an interview. It was a clip. It was after Miguel Cotto had fought. His wife was crying and said, this hurts me. I don't want to see this anymore. And he kissed his wife and said, it's all I know. What else am I going to do? It's all I know. He's bloodied. He's bruised up. His wife is crying next to him, says, this hurts me. I don't want to see this anymore. And he shrugs and kisses her and says, this is all I know. So for a lot of people, it's you lose a part of yourself when you're not doing what you love anymore. What you've been doing, like I said, you've been eating, breathing, sleeping this for multiple years, that these guys wake up and unless they picked up like a commentating position or whatever, they don't know what to do with themselves.
Yeah, I keep thinking of like Mike Tyson in the interview. It's like this guy has nothing to prove really, he's loaded. So it's just like he just wants to see if he still has it.
Plus Mike Tyson is also on the crazier side. Mike Tyson is you, first of all, to love boxing, you got to be crazy. Because I mean, who do you like getting punched in the face? Like it's not
Yeah.
fun. So to like boxing, you got to be crazy anyway. But to want to do it at 53 years old,
Right.
so yeah, no, Mike Tyson is definitely, but it makes him feel like himself. It makes him feel alive again. So
Yeah.
I say hats off to him. Keep doing
Right.
it. Do it against. But I like that he's doing it against other older guy. Roy, maybe Evander. I'm hearing Evander might be next. I wouldn't want to see him do it against these young guys because that's when it becomes unsafe.
Yeah, he'll be risking his life at that point.
Yeah.
At least he's somewhat on an even field, you know, fighting people that are more or less at the same level.
Yeah.
You did mention that, something that caught my attention is that you said that you still have like the itch to box, making reference to all these guys. I guess my question is, when do you start? When do you stop, and why? Box.
So my senior year, I started noticing like my dad went from fighting at Madison Square Garden. He fought at the Hard Rock Cafe in Florida. He fought in Berlin, Germany. So he went from these big arenas to like towards the end of his career. Now it's like they were very small local arenas, and obviously the paydays were getting smaller. And I just remember watching him sacrifice so much, like missing out on holidays. I remember him sucking on ice cubes because drinking a cup of water would make him go up in weight. So he'd be sucking on ice cream, putting himself through just crazy sacrifices, time away from family. And when it was all said and done, boxing didn't love him back. When it was all said and done, if he didn't set himself up with this full-time job he had, he would have, who knows what he would have had to do. So I just realized you could literally do everything the right way, but you might not be set up at the end. You might not be good at the very end of it all. So I was at a fight and like ringside, you had your Don Kings, your Bob Arams, your Lou DiBellas. These are other big promoters and stuff like that. And and there's other boxing managers sitting in the front rows, and like, wow, like these guys are making good money and they're not dieting, they're not taking the punches, and they have the longevity. They're still doing it in their older age. Don King's still alive. Bob Arum, still alive, still a promoter. You know, um, that's when it kind of like hit me, and I started thinking, I'm like, wow, so everyone wants to talk about Mike Tyson making 30 million in one night, but what I want to think about is, what did the guy who paid him 30 million in one night make?
Right.
That's what I want to know. Like everyone sees the fighters, the fame, I don't care about the fame. I'm like, yeah. keep the fame. I'll be the guy backseat that you don't even see making money off the sport that I love as well. You know, that's kind of where it really like could. I've been around it so long that I couldn't picture my life not being part of it. Like I couldn't picture not. I train people on the side. I do mitts with people. Obviously I matchmake, promote shows and stuff like that. So I just wouldn't feel complete if boxing wasn't in my life one way or another. So I found a way to stay in the sport I love and
Mhm.
possibly set myself up long term.
Right. No, that's cool, man. I always think about because everyone wants to be the famous actor. You know, you pick
Yeah.
whatever Marvel character you want, and they're all known, right? And they're making good money. But if you look at either the producers, if you're looking at those the directors, if you're looking at the people that are sponsoring that movie, yeah, maybe they don't have the notoriety, but I mean, they're making great money on that end, and they don't got to deal with the hassle of being famous. But I guess, you know, some people just want that. You know, some
Yeah.
people
See,
really care about money. They want to be famous.
for me, believe it or not, I'm like borderline shy. You know, I'm not too shy where like I can't converse with people, but I'm a shy person. Like even when I was fighting, like I didn't like big crowd. I loved when it was like those small like gym shows, when it was those small like few people there at the fights. Like I would thrive in those fights. But like when I got to like, you know, like the Silver Mittens or the Golden Glove show, like those are the show where there's a lot of people, like I would get like, oh shit, like I'd get like damn, you know, nervous. So I mean, I could care less about the fame. I could care less if people know me. I actually think fame could be annoying because even though my dad's not super famous around the world, in my city, he's very well known. And I remember like being out at family dinners and people interrupting for pictures or an autograph from him and stuff like that. So I'm like, nah, I would rather maneuver how I maneuver, you know, hang with my friends, my family, and make sure everyone's good. And if nobody knows me, I'm 100% okay with that.
Yeah. So how do you even like, so what's the process, man? Like, let's say somebody's listening to you and they're like, well, this sounds cool. I love boxing. I want to make money on the side. What is AJ doing? How do you even get started in like promoting? Do you just like try to find like a random boss? You're like, hey man, let me promote you. I'll do like some
Yeah.
social
So
media stuff,
I
try to
mean,
get you up, or like,
so no,
how
so
do you do it?
luckily for me, I've been around it for long enough that I understand how to build guys up. I understand how to make certain fights and stuff like that. So, um, to become a promoter, you just obviously you need to have the capital to do a show because you're paying for the venue, you're paying for the seats and the DJs and the judges and everything else, and so there's that aspect of it. And then on the matchmaker part, it's you get your mat, you go in front of whatever state commission that you have. So like I got licensed in Massachusetts and Connecticut. Um, and I can make shows elsewhere, but it's usually if I'm making shows elsewhere, I'm helping out another matchmaker. Um, you get your license, you apply for it, you tell the commission what your experience is, what you know about the sport, you fill out all your applications, and they either approve you or deny you to get a license. Um, as a promoter right now, because we are on the smaller scale, I don't sign anyone because yes, even though I could be losing out on a future stud, I could also be obligated to a guy who's a dud, and a
Mm.
dud is somebody who doesn't pan out to be what you thought he was. And once you sign that person, you're obligated to them. So like if I sign him as if I'm your promoter and I sign you to a contract, and in your contract it says I have to give you 2-3 fights a year, that's what I got to do. And you could be losing me money, but I still got to get you those. That's what's in the contract. So sometimes right now it's good. On a smaller scale, just doing shows, making good fights, and eventually as you make money off those shows, then you start signing people. And
As a promoter, are you paying for the venues and everything like that, or?
yeah, the promoter pays for everything. That's why they get the profits at the end.
Oh, okay.
So they get the ticket sale profits, they get the liquor profits, they get the food profits, the TV if you have TV. They get all that, and then their cut is after they paid everyone.
Gotcha. That's interesting. To be honest, I didn't think that a promoter would be paying for all these different components that it would take to put the fight together. I thought that the job of the promoter was just that, to like, promote the fight, get the fight going,
Oh
like,
yeah,
do
no,
that
no,
stuff.
they're in charge of the show. It's almost
Yeah.
like on a music scale too, because I am interested in music promoting as well. Um, just throwing a number out there. Let's say I decide I want to bring Chris Brown to my city, and I say, his rate is $100,000, hypothetically speaking. I would pay him his cut, and then after I secured the venue, I put the ticket prices at whatever I want. If I sold, let's just say, 3,000 tickets at $60 a piece. That would be what, 180,000?
Mm-hmm.
So 180,000, I subtract the 100,000 that I gotta pay Chris Brown, and now I'm left with 80 left over. And out the 80,000, I probably paid another 10 for the venue. So now I give the venue their cut. Now I'm left with 70. Let's say I spent another 5 for promotions. Now I'm at 65.
It keeps going down.
But when it's all said and done, $65,000, and you didn't really do anything. You middleman. You brought a guy to your city to perform because people love the nightlife. People love clubbing. People love parties. You brought this guy to your city, and he performed, does his job, and you made money. It's
And then
almost,
at the end, you also got to pay the tax man, right?
yeah. Well, you got to make sure whatever you made at the end. Let's say you took your 65, if whatever your state taxes are, put to the side.
Man, that's intense. I mean, you're also taking a lot of risk, right?
Yeah, you
Because
take a lot of risks because it could be the show could end up being a dud.
if that doesn't pan out, like, you could be out money. Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah,
To be honest,
100%.
when you were saying, obviously, I had somewhat of an understanding, like, oh man, like this could be like a tough time for you to be able to put on shows, but after hearing what it kind of takes to bring this together, trying to put on a show right now, super scary.
Oh, it would be an absolute nightmare. It would be an absolute nightmare. What makes things a little bit worse as well is, fighters need to get medicals in order for them to fight. They need to get their blood work, their physicals, their EKGs, their CAT scans, their eye exams. And right now, getting appointments in the hospital with the way things are going, that's like, I'm not going to say impossible, but that's not an easy thing to do. Unless it's an emergency, a lot of doctors aren't trying to see you.
Right. What other logistics are there for the fighter besides getting like a checkup and making sure that
So for the fighter, right, let's say you're about to fight for me. This is also, every state's different. Every state commission is different. They all require different things. But let's just say I say to you, you're going to fight this many rounds against this person. Your job, aside from training, you got to sign the contract, get the contract to me in a timely manner. You got to fill out a application for whatever state you're fighting in. So if you're fighting in Massachusetts, you would be signing a Massachusetts license to get your boxing license in the state of Massachusetts. Your corner, whoever your trainer is, and your cornerman, they also have to get licensed. And then you have to get me a physical signed off by a doctor. You have to get me an eye exam signed off by a doctor, blood work signed off by a doctor, EKG signed off by a doctor, and a CAT scan signed off by a doctor. You get all those things to me, and then I get them to the boxing commission, and they approve you once I get all those things in.
So is that something that you're responsible for financially? Or is that on the boxer?
So on a smaller scale, it's on the boxer. On a larger scale, promoters do cover it. So on a smaller scale, you'll get it because you're not my fighter. I'm not gonna pay for your medicals, and then you could take those medicals and fight elsewhere as well. You gotta invest in yourself early on. Early on for a lot of fighters, which a lot of people think it's all the glitz and the glamour and the huge paydays. Early on, it's a lot of investing in yourself.
So like, let's say, so I'm a fighter, I'm up and coming. Like, I start training at the gym. I'm like, yo, I want to try to get a fight. Maybe I'll talk to you or somebody else. What should I plan to have to invest outside of whatever trainer is gonna be training me for the fight, the gym?
So
What are we talking about after that,
so what
expense wise?
you should obviously have a trainer that you trust. You guys have a connection. That's number one. A trainer that might understand that paydays are small. Trainers get 10% anyway. So if you get a $400 payday, your trainer's getting $40. Because the paydays are small for rounds. Sometimes you might even have to fight for free. Like I've seen guys like tell promoters or even tell me like, hey, just get me on the show. Pay for my opponent. Don't even pay me. And those are people who are willing to invest in themselves because they realize it's a fight, it's active, they get a win, and they climb up. And they keep repeating that same step over and over and over until somebody's like, hey, this guy brings something to the table. Let me sign him.
Oh, gotcha.
And then early on, you're probably investing in your own strength and conditioning. You're investing in your own recovery. You're buying your own medicals. And then that, like I said, that all ends up paying off later on when you get signed with.
So, what's the quickest you've seen somebody get to an actual payday? From start to...
I mean, Vasil Lomachenko fought for a world championship, his second pro fight. But he was also a two-time Olympic gold medalist and had like 390 amateur wins and one loss. So like he's kind of like it depends. You have guys that had phenomenal amateur careers that they don't even waste time building themselves up. They jump right into the big show. But I mean, I would say Adrian Broner started getting big paydays very quickly. But that was due to his social media presence. He also had like a rap career and stuff like that. Gervonta Davis fairly quickly as well. Shakur Stevenson, those guys are I can't really say like, who had the most or who got there the fastest because it varies. But I mean, Mike Tyson's the youngest heavyweight champion of all time. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure he got there pretty quick too. Mike Tyson was only like 19.
When he went pro?
No, when he won a world championship.
Oh, dang.
He's
19.
the youngest heavyweight champion of all time.
Man, that's crazy. Dude, this promoting stuff, man, it sounds like it has a lot of steps. You'd have to have a lot of connections to be able to put this stuff together. Because what if somebody doesn't know you or they don't trust you to let you use their venue? Like, how do you even start building and talking? Well, I guess for you, you had some part of that in because you grew up in it.
Yeah, but I mean the venues a lot of times, as long as they get paid and whenever you do an event, you have to get liability insurance anyway. But as long as the venue gets paid, a lot of them really don't care anyway.
Gotcha.
It's you're putting money in their pocket, and you have to get liability insurance anyway. So it's not like if something happened that they're coming out of pocket.
Gotcha. Yeah. So we talked a little bit offline, just kind of wrapping up here, we talked a little bit about kind of, going into work for yourself. And I mean, right now you're doing two, right? You're doing the hustle on the side and you got your work, but I'm thinking that eventually you're going to want to do your promoting full time, and that's going to
Oh yeah.
be your gig. Does that not scare you at all? Like being responsible uh, to put all these things together and do all that, and being responsible for your own medical and all that stuff. Because you did mention that your dad had that one surgery, and because he had that job, that was what covered it. So I'm just curious to hear your thoughts on kind of like working for yourself and making that leap and working towards that.
Oh no, I'm not worried about it at all. I feel like one of the things that benefit me was I didn't start off with a lot of political leverage. Like there's a lot of guys who are at a certain level that they have like I've been X'd out of venues by bigger promoters. There's that game. There's I'm gonna go to this venue and another promoter's like, hey, don't let him come here. So I think that has worked to my advantage because I've worked my way around things like that. I deal
That's
with
a
one.
thing.
Oh, that's a thing. That's a thing. Yeah. Um, yeah. Nobody believes in working together in the boxing. It's weird. Nobody wants to work together. Everyone just wants to feed their own pockets. But
I
um, and I think I deal with one of the strictest commissions. They're great people, great people. But they are one of the strictest commissions in the state and in the country. So I think dealing with that also has helped me become better. Because they're no nonsense. Like they want what they want, and they're gonna get it. Otherwise, they won't sign off on a fight. There's certain guys that won't get approved here that will get approved in another state. So I think that's worked to my advantage. It's helped me become better. And I think that when the time comes, because you can't rush the process, but when the time comes, we'll be there. And I think part of what we do differently than some other ones is, aside from Golden Boy Promotions, which is run by Oscar De La Hoya, we're the only promotion company that is ran by actual fighters, my dad and myself. So we empathize with them. We understand them. We know what they're thinking. We know, what they're going through. So I think that connection right there helps us. And also we don't we're transparent. We're transparent with them. We're like, hey, this is what it is. Do you want to do this? We're not. I'm not one of those, like, there's other promoters out there who are like, listen, this is who you're fighting. Take it or leave it, or kick rocks.
Right.
Well, I'm more like, hey, this is who I got. I got option A, got option B, got option C. Do these work for you? Hey, none of these work for you. All right, we'll go to D, E, F. And we work from there. What weight is comfortable for you. I'm not gonna tell you, hey, you gotta get down to this weight and fight this guy. Oh, you want to fight this fight at 147? Okay, cool. Next time you fight for me, he wants to fight at 140. Okay, cool, that's fine. We work with, where we treat these people like actual people as opposed to just dollars. And that gives us the leverage over some other promoters, because other promoters, you're just dollars.
It's kind of funny hearing you kind of mention all these things, and I'm not even sure why I didn't put this together in my head, but it's like you're a company providing a service, and in this context, it's providing fights for boxers. And like any other company that's providing a business, like you got to be customer oriented, or else you're not going to survive.
Yeah.
And I think that it's cool that you guys are taking that approach, that you're trying to meet your clients at where they're at and meet them at their needs, versus maybe some other promoter, some other person that, I guess whatever, maybe they're a little bit more established. They're like, well, these are our products, right? This is what we got. If you don't fit in one of these boxes, then just you're wasting my time or something like that.
there's so much hidden talent that never gets out there because the promoters like, you're not making me money. You're basically, without saying it, they're saying it in their actions. You're useless to me. So you're not gonna get the same opportunities as this guy, even though you're just as good or even better than this guy.
Gotcha.
You know.
Here's an interesting question. How do you, as a promoter, or how do you guys, you and your dad, either decide to work with somebody or, look at somebody in finding somebody that you guys want to promote? Like, what's the methodology behind that?
So when we first started, it was kind of like just seeing who wanted to work with us. We're the new company. So we just kind of see, and when we had a lot more people trying to work with us than we expected. So we kind of had to like weave people out, and we do it by, are you easy to work with? Because we're easy people to work with. Are you being a stickler about things? Are you, we're not a Showtime show. So we're not a HBO pay-per-view show. We're not fighting at the MGM over here. So if you're sitting here and you're asking me for, you want travel money, you want hotel, you want foods, you want all this stuff, and I'm getting you a win. Like for the opponents, that's different. For the opponents, those guys get that stuff. But you're not signed to me. So therefore, I'm doing more for you than you are for me. I'm getting you a win, which at this level, that's what I try to do. I try to give you have your A side guys and your B side guys. You want to build certain guys up. So if I'm getting you a win, I'm keeping you active. That's all a boxer needs at the 4 and 6, 8 round level.
What's getting a win?
So getting a win is analyzing your talent and putting you with someone that might be lesser talent.
Gotcha.
So a win, for example, a win for me might not necessarily be a win for you. I have to analyze. So I have to do my own homework. I have to analyze your strengths and weaknesses. So it's not like I'm just throwing in anyone. I'm analyzing, for example, you might be good against lefties and I might be bad against lefties. So I would put a lefty in with you, but why would I put one in with me if I'm bad with lefties?
Right.
Things like that. So with these guys, you want to get them, you're trying to work their way up. You're trying to get them wins. So you're trying to put them in with guys that, will test them, but hopefully not beat them.
Right, because you don't want a match where it's just whatever KO in the first round. You want to give a good show too, because or else
you got to find a fine line. You got to have a good show for the audience, but you also have to make sure that your guys are winning.
Right.
You want your guys to win. So, I think that a lot of people fail to realize, like, without a promoter, you're not getting on shows. And if you are getting on shows, you're probably fighting tough. You're not getting that careful baby steps that some guys get. I know guys who, they're like 6-0, 7-0. They don't really get fights. And when they do get offered fights, they're getting offered tough fights.
Gotcha.
But so we like to go with who's easier to work with. We also like to go, I have a job. I have a job with the commission. I have a deadline with the commission. I have to follow everything based on what the commission's asking for. So if you are holding me up, I can't do business with you. Like, I might work with you one time, but then the next show I probably won't even ask you or I might let you fight the next show, but we would, the only reason why I would is because I already have your medicals, because your medicals are good for a year.
Okay.
So
it'd be easier for you to use that person than somebody else.
It'd be easier for me to use you again because I have your medicals, but I'm also going to keep in mind, like, once your medicals expire, I probably won't even use you again because you were tough to deal with. I'm chasing you around for a contract. I'm chasing you around for medicals. I'm not your dad. I'm not even your trainer. So I'm not gonna be chasing you around for things that you should be chasing me around. You should be looking for me like, hey, AJ, I got your stuff here. You should be trying to come to me. And I can't stand when I have to chase guys down and I got the commission down my back like, hey, we're this many weeks out. The deadline's this day. I still need this guy's this and that.
Man, so it sounds like even for a boxer, there's a lot of things that are involved besides the training. Obviously, you got to get all this stuff together. But I mean, just hearing you describe the stuff that you do and what you deal with, I can't, not that I can understand, but I can imagine that it would be tough for somebody to try to get into this game on their own.
Oh yeah. Yeah. A team makes or breaks a fighter's career. If you got the right people, the right places, the right pieces, just if you got a team, you'll go far. You'll go far. That's a lot of people they overlook a team. Even though boxing, you're in the ring alone and it's the loneliest sport in the world, on the outside part of it, a team is needed. If you have a team, if you have a guy who's willing to pay for your recovery and pay for your nutritionists, and you got a guy who does your strength and conditioning, and you got a guy who does your mitts or your film study, if you just got all these pieces there, man, it makes fighting easier.
What's paying for recovery? I meant to ask you that.
What was that?
Is that like ice baths and stuff like that? Like paying for
recovery is your massage, your ice baths. Now the new thing is cryotherapy. You're in the chain, like -2. I'm actually probably gonna go to one today. Your massage, your not physical, physical therapy, things like that. Everything that goes into making your body better.
Ready for the next round.
Ready for the next day of training. That's the thing. Not even just ready for the fight. You know, if like, for example, you know, our bodies eventually get used to it because it's almost like we never turn the engine off, so the car is just running. But like, imagine like right now, you going to play a pickup game of basketball. You're probably going to wake up tomorrow, unless you do it often, you're probably going to wake up tomorrow with a few little sore muscles.
Right.
So with a fighter, when you're training this hard, extensive training every day, Monday through Sunday, getting ready for this fight, your body needs the recovery.
Right. Gotcha. I guess one final question for you, man. Well, actually two. Do you mind is there a horror story that you witnessed that you could share with me? It doesn't have to be like you necessarily, but like just to give you an example, like, you know, somebody that is working in like real estate may have a horror story about whatever, having to get up at 12 o'clock at night to fix a toilet or some crap like that. Do you have any like unforeseen moments or things like that doing what you're doing?
The biggest horror I mean, I can name a few, like not one specifically because I've had a few, but one of the big horror stories that could possibly happen is like one of your best ticket sellers, one of your best fighters, calling you like the week of the fight and telling you he can't fight because he injured himself. He got cut in sparring or something. Or that fighter's opponent pulling out because they got sick or they got hurt, or another promoter paid for them to fight on their show instead, or the commission didn't approve him. Like I've had, so my main event, you got your undercard fights, and then you got your main event. I remember on one of my shows, like the commission called me last minute and was like, yeah, we don't have so-and-so's CAT scan. And I'm like, what? We turned that into you like 3 weeks ago. What are you talking about? No, we don't have it. We need that CAT scan. And this is like days before the fight. So now I'm like, oh man, I got to call that fighter. Luckily that fighter's parents like are very involved in his career, and the mom drove all the way to some facilities you don't have to make appointments for. They do same day appointments. So she went, straight there, got the fighter's CAT scan, got it signed off, and drove it. Instead of mailing it, she drove it all the way to the commission's office and gave it to them.
Oh, wow.
That was like, whew, that was like a save right there. You lose your main event. That's a shizzy situation.
I mean, at that point, can't even imagine. You're out all that. There's no event. Everyone's gonna want their money back.
Well, no, you still can have the event, but you're losing your best fighter and you're losing the ticket sales.
All right, because like you always have like your main event, but you have your.
They all sell tickets. So like, let's say I have 10 shows. All 10 of those fighters sell tickets.
Right.
They also their fan base, their friends, their family, but the main event is usually your best fighter and it's usually your highest ticket seller.
Right. No, that makes sense. Yeah. What'd you do? What would you have done if that parent would have not gotten involved at that point? What was your? I could imagine you probably thought of hopeful backup.
I would have did the same thing. I probably would have like found time to pick that fighter up and let's go get this done. Yeah. I mean, I remember another horror story. This was on another show. I mean, I had one fight fall out because some dummy came in overweight. I had another fight fall out because somebody got hurt. I had like 3-4 fights fall out. So before I went from a 10-fight card to now I got 7 fights left. And then I ended up having 6 fights because my main event fell out. His opponent, something happened. So I'm up at like 2, 3, 4 in the morning right now talking to fighters in Mexico. And I say Mexico, those are my go-to guys right there. Because those guys, they don't care what the weight is. They're like, yeah, you pay them, especially you pay them more than what their money's worth too. Those guys are always ready to fight. They're always reliable. So I was up 3, 4 in the morning. I got an opponent like last minute from Mexico. Had to fly him in like the next day. Because those guys, like I said, they stay ready. They're so reliable.
Probably for an opportunity.
The opportunity, but like it's also a business for them. It's also a business for them because they're getting paid more money than in a night than they're probably making at whatever job they have.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, yep. No, that makes sense.
I'm not sure what the American money is to pesos, but I'm pretty sure $1,000, our money, is more.
Right.
So
yeah, I would think so. Yeah, for sure.
I always those are like my go-to backup guys. I have a guy out there that anytime I hit him up, I'm like, hey, I need a 175-pound guy. You got one? He's like, yeah, I got you. Would you make it happen?
Oh man, that's interesting. I didn't even think about that side of things where maybe reaching out to people that are outside the States to get them in and fighting.
Mm-hmm.
As well.
Because I find that those guys are a little easier. They're a little less demanding. They're also not going to overprice me. Like if an American fighter knows that he's taking a fight last minute, he's going to try to upcharge me. But these guys, they won't try to they'll take a fair payday. And then, like I said, they'll come ready and they know their job, they know what they're there for, and they're going to fight, and they're tough. That's what I like about them is they're tough.
No, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that side of thing as well. But yeah, man, just wrapping up here. I mean, it sounds like obviously you've been in the industry for so long. What words of wisdom do you have as we close here for somebody either like it's a fighter or somebody that's looking to get into the promotion business? Like, what have you learned in all this time that you've been doing it?
Discipline, dedication, perseverance. Whether you're on the business side of boxing, whether you're the fighter, whether you're the trainer, those 3 things. Because the discipline as a fighter, you're going to bed at the right time, you're waking up at 3, 4 in the morning running, you're dieting, you're doing everything that sucks. You're missing holidays. If you had a fight in November, you definitely missed Thanksgiving. If you had a fight in December, you missed Thanksgiving and you missed Christmas. Ryan Garcia just fought today's Monday 2 days ago. So he missed Thanksgiving, he missed Christmas, and he missed New Year's. That takes discipline to do that. And he made weight. He didn't come in overweight. So discipline, that's huge. You know, the trainers got to have the discipline to show up for the fighter every day. You know, they get tired too. Same with the promoters, the managers. It's staying disciplined to do your job even when you're tired. The dedication, you know, it's not easy. It's going to be time away from family. It's going to be after hours. It's going to be early hours, during hours, and after hours. And then the perseverance. Nothing in life is ever going to go your way. Nothing's going to be easy, set in stone, smooth sailing. You're going to hit bumps. You're going to hit trees. You're going to hit huge obstacles that you just got to find a way. If you got the perseverance, you're going to find a way, and you have to. That's the only way you're going to survive in the world, in this business, and as the fighter or on the business side of things. You know, I could have, as soon as I realized that bigger promoters were trying to X me out, I could have been like, there's no use. You know, they got more money than me. They got more political gain than me. You know, I'm never gonna make. I keep trying. I go where I'm able to go.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think that those are wise words, and I don't think it's just for boxing. I think in general, in life, in life,
Right. Even with this podcast, you could easily be like, you know, oh, my podcast isn't getting as many views as I thought it would, you know, and you could give up. But no, you could persevere. You could keep trying. You could keep going, and before you know it, you're the highest viewed podcast on YouTube. You know, it happens. It's just a matter of, are you resilient enough?
Yeah, you know, there was I don't know if it was a quote, but it's a saying that most overnight success took 10 years to build. You know, you just got to know them that 1 second, but they've been preparing and building for 10 years.
One of my favorite memes, it's like a meme. It's like a picture. It's a picture of a glacier, and at the top it writes it's success on the glacier, but under the glacier, it's like all the steps it took there, because we only see the glacier. We only see above the. We don't see that huge chunk of ice that built from the bottom all the way up,
right,
to the glacier. So it was like discipline, boom, 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 and then all you see is success. Though you don't see that. You know, same thing with the fighters. You know, you saw what they did in the ring. Nobody saw what they put themselves through the whole training camp. You know, the dieting, the going to bed, the abstinence, all that stuff. You know, is more than just the night of.
Yeah, man. Know? So true. But yeah, man, I don't want to take any more of your time. This was awesome. Definitely appreciate you taking the time to do this interview. I mean, I really learned a great deal, man. And thank you for kind of lifting the curtain a little bit and letting us into what it would take to either promote or even being a fighter. So thanks so much for the opportunity, man. Taking the time.
Thanks for having me, man. Thank you.
Yeah, bud. Thanks so much. Take care.
Take care. Have a good one.
You too.